Hey, I'm Supats, lifelong solopreneur. Now living my life with only one passion to help solopreneurs to launch their digital products on fast track so that they can be profitable as fast as within 1 week, and they want to scale, they can join the membership. And as a bonus, I show them how they can sell their digital products all over the world using affiliates. Without further delay, let's get started. Hi, this is Sue Pats with New Beginning Success Collaboration and New Beginning Inspiration for You podcast. And we always have guests, they empower us and add value to our life. Generally, we have just authors, just coaches, just business owners, but very rarely we see all the combo in one person, and that is what you are going to get. You are going to get Jeremy Shapiro, who is author, who is coach, who is serial entrepreneur, and he has his own mastermind. So, without me going into details of that, let me invite Jeremy. Here is Jeremy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show, Sue.
Okay,
I'm
so
excited to be
just we
here.
wanted to know you. So, how just tell about your story. How did you get started into the business, and what led you where you are right now?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. I've had businesses since I was a kid, and I like to say my first real business was when I was in high school. And when I say real business, I mean starting to build out with employees and team members,
Wow.
multiple clients, and all that. Um, every one of my businesses has always been in the service of other entrepreneurs and helping them move towards what I call entrepreneurial freedom. It's to me, I think one of the biggest benefits to having your own business. But a lot of folks don't see that until much later in life. And so a lot of my work has been helping entrepreneurs to understand what entrepreneurial freedom is and find that
So
earlier
many
on in their
times people
entrepreneurship.
say I started a business in my high school. So it is generally babysitting or lemonade stand and all. So your business was not like that, right? So what was your business?
Yeah, so I've had many businesses over the years. They've all either filled a gap I had in an existing business, or served the same audience in a very collaborative, compatible way. So early on, some of my earliest businesses was in like the IT consulting space and development space, and so I was working with business owners, helping them to get in front of more customers, and for a different business of mine, was helping them not to worry about the IT side of things and know that they could just focus on their business and not have to worry about the challenges that come with computer infrastructure. But that was lifetimes ago.
So it was quite a smooth ride for you.
There have certainly been bumps along the way. I think like many entrepreneurs find. I've seen in my businesses as well as in client businesses over the years that growth typically comes in like S curves, right? Everyone talks about the hockey stick. People see sort of the plateau, the curve, and then they're shooting off to the moon. But no one ever really likes to zoom out and ask what happens, towards the top of that hockey stick. And what happens is you usually plateau again. So that plateau is where many business owners typically feel stuck, right? The thing you were doing that was working before suddenly stopped working, right? And you don't know how, and you don't know why. You don't know what to do to get unstuck and move forward again. And that's usually when business owners are finding me, because they're feeling stuck and want some help to, get that growth back into their business again. So in terms of bumps, if you don't address those plateaus as you're nearing them or plan for them ahead of time, then something worse happens. That plateau actually becomes a peak. And that's where you can see businesses
So
typically
when you
start to
say
head
you
downhill.
always served business owners, so it was always like that. You always matched your thinking and what they were thinking, you were thinking, and it was really like energetic exchange, and they always believed whatever you believed, and you believed whatever they were following. Was it always like that?
It wasn't always as compatible as you make that sound. What I found is that, I'm a dot connector. I love to see patterns and see what the commonalities are. So across the breadth of clients that I've worked with, I can see what many of those commonalities are, right? But when you're a business owner with just your own business, right, you haven't yet connected those dots or seen the patterns like I have. So no, to answer your question, folks don't always, jump on board with what I'm suggesting right away. But then it becomes, my job to help them see those dots or patterns, and sometimes be lovingly or gently persistent with the direction they can go. And I always find it interesting, when working with clients, that sometimes there'll be, an idea that I'm suggesting, and it might take a while until they come around to it. And then as soon as the client does and they start seeing the benefit from that, then there's always that, that hindsight is 2020 perspective, right? They're looking backwards and asking, like, why didn't I do this earlier? How much different could my business have been had I just implemented this change
I
earlier
saw
on?
another thing. People who are really successful, they have a belief system that most people don't believe in. So, do you have something like that that you believe, but you come across with almost everyone they don't believe in? Do you have something like that?
Yeah, I think there's a mentality out there. I see it so commonly taught and preached by, by experts out there, right? That you should be working, 28 hours a day, 9 days a week. And if you're not, working on building your business at any given moment, your competitors are out there stealing your customers, right? And that, how dare you go to sleep or spend time with family or take time off or do anything? And it's a really, really toxic perspective, right? That's all like the hustle mentality. So, I have a rather contrarian view to that, which is what we call the anti-hustle perspective, right? So, with anti-hustle, the idea is that you can work hard, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's more to business, there's more to life than just your business, right? Your business should be supportive of the life you want to create. It's not that your life should be entirely and fully supportive of the business. And that really is how we start to
I
move towards
know
entrepreneurial
actually I
freedom.
was into network marketing before I started my digital business, and we have something called upline and various other terms and all. Upline is basically someone who has already been there and they are supporting and helping you, and mentors, something like that. And whenever we did anything like taking vacation and all, they always gave us guilt trip. How can you take vacation? How can you do this? How can it was so much, oh my goodness. Even if we go out somewhere with our family for a weekend, there was a guilt trip. How can you do that? How can you do that? And it was, I think, too suffocating. And I mean, thank God I'm not doing it anymore. But just wanted to tell you, means that is not how you can, yeah, thrive in your business. You have to enjoy your life, right? Because I remember Steve Jobs' write up. It was full of
Well,
regrets.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no one's ever lying on their deathbed and looking up at their family
Oh
and
yeah,
their dying words saying, I wish
oh
I had
yeah.
worked more, right? Like that's not how that goes. Now, I want to offer a contrasting perspective to what you'd shared, which is very common, this sort of suffocating, guilt trip of how dare you take time off, right? There's a group of entrepreneurs I like to hang out with. And one of the questions that comes up when friends are, reconnecting after not seeing each other, for a few months or a year. And one of the first questions people ask each other is, hey, how many weeks did you take off last year? Right. And it's almost a bragging game to see who's able to take more time off. Because here's what's interesting: having more time off means many things, not just you have the financial ability to take a significant amount of time off from your business, right? And vacation and all, but it also means you have the right systems in place to allow you to step away from the business, and you have the right people and the right trust and all these things, right? All of that boils down to this like one KPI, which is how many weeks were you able to step away from your business last year, right? And vacation or do whatever is important to you. And that is something I think is so key that many business owners get wrong, right? If you step back and you look at the direction your business can go, there's really only three directions your business can go, right? One is you pass your business on to your kids. And maybe that happened more in, previous generations, but nowadays, like, it really doesn't happen that often. And even if you think you're the rare exception and you are going to pass your business on to your kids, ask your kids how they feel about that. Do they want to take on the business you've been building? It's extremely unlikely that you're going to pass your business on to your kids. Okay. It can happen, but it's rare. The other direction it can go is you run the business into the ground. And at some point, you just turn the open sign to closed and the business is done. right? That is the direction almost all businesses go. They run it to the ground and they close up. There's a third direction your business can go, though, and that's that you build your business up and you sell it, right? So given the choices of passing it on to your kids who don't want it, right, running it into the ground or selling it, which one seems most appealing? And with that perspective, we can start to plan better and we can ask better questions, right? How do I build a saleable business, right? And nobody's going to want to buy your business if it's you working, 90 hours a week, 8 days a week, right? That's not that attractive of a business to buy. That's a job, right? And so when we actually look at the financials of a business and we look at what the owner is making from the business, right? There's a few categories of financial benefit you get as a business owner, right? So one of it is like for the work you do in the business, right? There's also the profitability component. Let's just focus on those two among many. So if you were to step back and have someone else do all the things you do in the business and pay them for that, what's left over for you in terms of profit as the business owner? For most folks, they feel they can't afford to hire for the roles they have in the business. And so they end up feeling stuck in the business. Well, if I understand this correctly, if you can't afford to hire anyone to do the work you do in the company, that means your business is running at a loss, right? And there's no profitability coming out. So if instead we build a business where you can pay someone to do all the work you do in the business, you don't have to, right? But if you structure it that way, and then you get profitability as the business owner, well, now we have an income producing asset. Now we have a business you could sell. You can also hang on to, just like an investment property, right? When it's cash flowing well, you can keep it and cash flow it and do nothing while it's totally turnkey, or you can go ahead and sell it for a profit. No one's saying you have to go either way, but it means you have the optionality. Contrast that with if you were to own an investment property that was underwater, right? Meaning it's bleeding money and worth less than you paid for it. You can't sell it and it's costing you money, right? That is the situation that many business owners are in their own business. And there's a better way.
Yeah, and actually, I work with many solopreneurs, and they wear many hats. I do agree, means they wear many hats, and they have a limited budget. But you know, you choose which hat you want to wear. It's not necessary you have to keep on wearing a graphic designer's hat or admin hat or something which we can easily outsource for a really small amount. Yeah, you want to wear hat, then wear hat of CEO, CFO, or CTO, and those kind of hats you can keep wearing. But you don't need to wear all other hats which you can easily delegate to someone else, and that is how
Correct.
you can free yourself. And you talk about the taking time off. Taking time off is also so important because the great
Yeah.
ideas come when you are resting and when you are really in peace
Yes.
and meditative mind. That time the best idea come, because then your actually soul meets your higher self or god within, whatever. But that's the best ideas come. So always I remember the story that one axe, there were two axe, means basically they were wood choppers, and one kept on working, and other took breaks, and he actually sharpened his axe, and he refreshed and all. And the fellow who kept on cutting his wood all the time, he said, hey, this fellow is not doing anything, he's just taking a rest and all. But at the end of the day, the person who took rest, who sharpened his axe, had more wood cut, because of the obvious reason. But many times people just forget that.
Yeah.
I cannot say other people, because personally, even I left my 9 to 5 job, 40 hours of job, to work 80 hours, and I burnt myself out in just couple of months, and I
Yeah.
said, no way, I'm no longer doing that. So that's a really valid point. And I think small business owners, entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
solopreneurs, they should know that. But how can you tell if you are a self-employed
If
or
you're
a true
familiar with,
business owner? Because they are used actually alternatively.
yeah.
But
So
what is the difference?
Yeah. So for our listeners, if you're not familiar with Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant, it's a great read. But in a nutshell, the part I want to touch on here is, this is on the cover of the book, right? Kiyosaki talks about the transition from being an employee to self-employed to business owner to investor, right? That's sort of the 4 quadrants that he talks about in the book, right? Now, what most folks don't realize is the chasm between self-employed and business owner is huge. And there's a really easy litmus test I like to use to determine which side of that chasm you're on, right? Many of us, go out and hang a shingle and start our own business and think we're a business owner. And yes, you might be, but if you were to step away from your business for a day or a week, a month or a quarter, right? Imagine stepping away from your business for an entire quarter, 3 months. When you came back to your business, would it be the same as when you left it? Would it be better off? Or to be a dumpster fire and you're out of business? For most folks, it's that latter category, right? For some, the business will maintain, but that's rare. And for a very select few, the business will be better off than when you left it, right? And that's really our goal in terms of building our business, is we want our business to be able to support us as an income producing asset, right? Where it's not solely dependent upon us, but instead relies on the right people using the right systems in your business. That's how you're able to step out of the day-to-day roles in the company. I want to share a story with you. You reminded me of earlier on, which was there's a client we were working with, and he was a solopreneur, like many of our listeners. And with his business, he wanted to make sure that when his customers who are using his product in their business, when they needed him, that he was there for them, right? Because if there was a problem, their business could be offline until he resolved it. So this meant that he was by his phone all the time. Now, this was a guy who loved mountain biking. He loved getting out in the mountains, getting out in nature. That's where he would recharge, refresh, and all the things you're talking about with those two woodcutters, right? Well, wouldn't you know it, he had started a business and now he couldn't get out in nature, couldn't get refreshed, recharged, and all that because he wanted to be there for his customers. So one of the first things we helped him do was, like you'd mentioned earlier, outsource, right? Hire on for some of those lower entry level roles in the company. And so he brought on a customer service person overseas who during business hours was there to answer phone and email for his customers. So this did 2 really important things, right? One is it gave him that time back so he could go into nature now and then. But more importantly, it let him focus on higher value roles within the company. Now he could suddenly work on sales and bringing in new business, one of the most important things you can do as a small business. He could work on marketing, right? He could work on vision, product roadmap, all these other things that the business needed, right? Because now he wasn't stuck on the phone or writing emails back to customers.
Yeah.
He had someone else doing that. So for our listeners who are solopreneurs and you're looking for that freedom, there are things in your business that you can outsource and take off of your plate to free you up. And you now get to reinvest that time how you like. You can invest it in yourself, in family, in travel, in community, right? You can also reinvest it back in the business and do higher value tasks within the business to grow the business. You can invest that time into launching a new business, right? But you suddenly now get the optionality. And that's really what comes with entrepreneurial freedom, is the freedom of choice in terms of how you spend your time. So whether it's customer service, you mentioned design earlier, right? I'm a terrible graphic designer, so I'm always glad to have someone help out with that, right? Whether it's podcast production, right? Whether it's editing, copywriting, whatever this is, there are things in your business that you can have someone else do, and they'll do a better job than you could ever do. They'll do it faster than you could do it, and you won't
Yeah,
have to do it anymore.
actually, this is your business. So for brain and strategy, yeah, use your brain, your strategy, or even your mentor's brain, your mentor strategy. But the things which can be done mechanically, yeah, you can surely train. You have a systems in place. They can follow the roadmap, and once they have the checklist of every task, why? Why you have to be stuck with that task? You don't need to be, right? Yeah, that is a really it
Right.
is so enlightening, and I wish means everyone starts implementing it the moment they start the business. Otherwise, it is just a hobby. It becomes just a hobby, right?
I'm always so impressed with business owners who launch a business that does something totally outside of their core competency, right? These are like founders who have software companies, but they can't code, right? Or business owners who have a marketing agency, but they're not good marketers, right? Because by definition, you must have team members
Yeah.
fulfill the core competencies of the business, which means by design, your business needs to be able to scale, not because of your core competency. Contrast that with, the plumber who hangs a shingle and they have their own plumbing truck, but they're answering the calls and going on site and doing the work and writing the estimates and all these things, right? So sometimes we choose to grow and put these systems and people in place intentionally because we want to. Other times life happens to us. I had a client of mine, and he was in a really unfortunate situation. He was one of these guys who was out on the job sites, writing up the estimates, handling the sales, seeing that his crews got started at the job site every day, and really very, very hands-on in the business, like we're always taught to be. And that was great. Well, one day he's out of the job site talking to a customer, and he hears one of the guys call out. And the trailer had come off the back of a truck and was rolling down the hill towards him with one of those big Bobcat, excavators on the back of it. So before he can look up, this trailer hits him, and not just hits his body, but drags his now breaking and bleeding body down the road. So he comes to in the hospital in the ICU with, broken ribs and legs and blood loss and all this awful, terrible stuff. And he's looking down at his shattered body, and he's thinking about his business, like many of us business owners do. And this was a business built around his physicality, his ability to show up on the job site, and his ability to get the guys going at the start of the day, to write up estimates for prospects, to handle the sales, to get them to become customers, and so forth. So as he moves from the ICU to recovery, during his hospital stay, he had to make some really big decisions. So first, he brought on technology, right? And he realized he could have his guys check into the job site with an app on their phone instead of checking in with him in person, right? So suddenly he didn't have to be there for his crews every morning. They could digitally check in on the job site. 2, he wrote up the system on how to actually handle the sales and the estimates and all that side of things. And he hired someone, and he brought on a sales rep to actually handle all of that, client interface work, like an account exec. And so while he's there laid up, broken in a hospital room, his business is continuing to operate. And in fact, his sales guy that he hired was better than he was. And so next thing you know, he's closing more business. The business is making more money, and the business is more profitable. But also he's putting less hours a day into the business. So there's a really interesting number that he likes to look at that I love, which is any of us can use in our business, which is looking at how many hours a day, a week, a month, whatever, do you put into your business? And then what's the benefit you receive out of the business as the business owner, right? And this is simple math, right? You have a numerator and denominator, right? You divide those out, you get your effective hourly rate. So as a business owner, using the simple formula with 2 variables, you can impact either of those variables. One is you can increase the profitability of the business, right? Many of us understand, strategies to use for that. The other is we can reduce the hours that we're putting into the business. And little pro tip, you can also work on both of those, right? So if you improve these numbers, your effective hourly rate as the business owner can continue to climb and climb. So when you outsource and bring someone on to do design or production or customer service or these things, yes, that might be an expense, but that can also now be fewer hours you're putting into the business, therefore improving your hourly rate. And when you hire someone to do what you're doing and they do an even better job or they're more efficient at it, well, now you're improving both sides of the equation. You can improve the profitability in the business and reduce the hours you're putting in. And then you get to really start seeing the benefit.
This is like
of
a
owning
dream come
business.
true because I always say, I want to make money while I'm asleep, while I'm vacationing, and so this is like a dream come true for anyone. But who is your ideal client? Because it looks like they should have at least $1 million revenue before they take your services, or what is the criteria? How do you choose your clients?
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? And knowing our niche where we're at is important. So for me, helping folks to evaluate their business idea and launch a new business, like that is far more on the mentorship side and the coaching side. And while I can help there, really my sweet spot has always been for established business owners, right? They have an existing post-revenue business. They have a sales process. They know what it is they sell. They have customers. They've had growth, and now they're feeling stuck or plateaued, right? And they're not sure what changed or why it's not working anymore. And they want to grow and get unstuck. So typically revenue is in that $500,000 to $1 million a year and up. right? There's already a team in place, whether that's a part-time, on the low end, a part-time VA to on the high end, a dozen employees, right? There's the idea of systems and people is already starting to formulate or very much in place, right? And they need to be the key decision maker in the business, right? So if you're in a highly regulated industry, right, like occasionally I'll talk to folks who, for example, are in real estate or financial management, and the question I'll always ask is like, look, if you want to drastically change your pricing structure or your marketing or any of that stuff, do you have the freedom just to do whatever you want. And in highly regulated industries where there's someone else really running the show, that's typically not the case. But if you're the founder, if you're the business owner, if you can make the decisions on launching a new product, changing your pricing, changing your messaging, all those kinds of things, then you are that decision maker, and we can actually figure out the strategies that you need to get unstuck and really grow.
Thank you. That is really, well to know. So, but what is the concept? Why did you start Mastermind? What is the concept behind it?
Yeah, so I've been part of mastermind groups for decades, and they've always been hugely impactful to me. The idea stems back to Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. This is a book from the 1930s, so almost 100 years ago now. But the idea stays true to today. And that is that if you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, right, and you are pursuing a goal, that the combination of your and others' minds can get you ideas and solutions and breakthroughs that you would never find on your own, right? So fast forward to today, what does that mean? This means that we get business owners together to talk about what's working, what's not working, where they need help, and what's really going on in their business. And through a structured, facilitated group, business owners can recognize the opportunities that exist in their business, right? The blocks they didn't realize were there, and those real hidden opportunities that they never would have found out with those blinders on, that they only understand because there are peers around them and expert facilitation to help them get
So, what
unstuck
are the
and truly
common
break through.
mistakes entrepreneurs do while looking to scale their business?
Yeah, so a lot of the challenges I see is that business owners think a few things. One, if you just keep doing the same thing and it's not working, it'll suddenly start to work, and that's not usually the case, right? You usually need to change up what you're doing to get a different result, right? Two, especially for our solopreneurs, there's this concept that no one else can do something as well as you can. And that's a really big limiting belief. That's going to prevent you from bringing on what will likely be some of your best hires, right? So recognize that you can actually systematize what it is you do, no matter how secret you think your secret sauce is. Underneath it all, there's probably a formula or a system. And if you think there can't be, then that's going to be a really limiting belief. So find a way to systematize what it is that you do, right? Codify it. That will allow you to then get the right people on to scale. And that brings us to the third challenge I often see is there can occasionally be this fear that if you hire someone, they're going to go out and start the competing business and, take all your magical Coke recipes and, launch the Pepsi to your Coke, right? And the reality is entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. It really should be reserved for us select weirdos, right? Most folks don't get the risk and challenges associated with entrepreneurship like we do. And so most folks are not going to go start a competing business. And if they do, they're typically in for a rude awakening about what business is really like, and they'll very rarely succeed. And in the rare chance they do, your business is evolving all the time as well, right? If they continue doing what it is that you've already been doing, they're going to hit those plateaus while you as a savvier business owner will continue to evolve and, stack those S curves up like we were talking about earlier. That lets you continue to grow. And if their only playbook is to copy what you did, well, they're going to be left in the lurch while you continue to innovate, and they're still stuck with one
During holiday time, I made a series of training basically to avoid burnout, because holiday time people think, oh, this is the time I should capture it, and they really burn out, and instead of enjoying the holidays, they are totally stressed out. So I would like to know if you have any more techniques to avoid burnout, because that is, I think, the commonest thing any entrepreneur or solopreneur faces. So
Yeah. So burnout is really common, especially more on the solopreneurship side, because when all the responsibility and burden is yours, there's no one for you to offload that to, right? Your business can continue being successful even if you're not there all day, every day. one of the best benefits of having a business is that I can support your life, right? If you're not taking off a quarter or so a year, right, there's some missed opportunity for you there, right? This is something I do regularly. Whenever my kids are off, whether that's the school vacations, the summer, anything else, I'm for the most part entirely offline. When my kids were born, I was really lucky. I shared the news with my team that we were expecting our first kid, and after all the congratulations, my team of smarter, wiser team members, many of whom were parents, then asked me how much time I was taking off, and I never really thought about taking time off. I just figured I'm always kind of around, right? And they really encouraged me, thankfully so, to take some time off. And so that gave us about 6 months to figure out what was needed. And my team came to me and they said, all right, here are the hires we need to make. Here are the systems we need. Here's the things that, Jeremy, only you know that we need to know, and so on. And so we had that runway to put everything in place. That allowed me to truly unplug for 3 months and come back to a better business than when I left it. And like you were touching on earlier, the ideas that came up, right? The things I wanted to get started working with, I was eager and chomping at the bit to jump back into it, refreshed and renewed. But more importantly, I got months with my newborn baby daughter, and to have no other worry in the world except my wife and my daughter and whatever needs anyone had. And that was where my focus and head could be before I then plugged back into business and everything else.
So, may I hear these terms also used interchangeably, right? Working in the business and working on the business. What is the difference? Because people use both ways and they mean the same thing. Can you differentiate? Because I really want people to know.
Yeah. So really the biggest difference I find between working in versus working on your business comes down to the work it is that you're doing, right? The work in your business is really the work of your business, right? So if you're a marketing agency or an SEO company, right, this is a matter of you doing that work for your clients, right? If you got a plumbing company like we talked about before, this is actually going out there doing the work with clients, right? Working on your business is far more strategic, right? It's vision oriented, right? This is creating systems, taking care of key hires and so on, right? So working on your business is things like the marketing plan, systems, hiring, masterminding, stepping away from your business, creating the plans, right? This is all the strategic work on your business so that you can do a better job of building a truly
So,
scalable
working
business.
on the business means basically you are wearing a bigger hat like a CEO and you are using your brain and strategy, and working in the business means you are doing manual, repetitive, physical work, right?
That's a good way of differentiating it for sure. Yeah. And what we find is, especially earlier on, look, for our bootstrap solopreneurs, in the beginning, when it's just you've got to do all the things, right? So you are doing work in the business. And, at no point am I saying you shouldn't do any work in the business. Ideally, you've created a business doing something that you're passionate about, something that you really enjoy. But when you've done the correct strategic work on your business, it frees you up to do the work in the business that you're most excited about, right? That might be a matter of working with a few select clients that you're really passionate about those projects, right? That might be a matter of, doing the higher level strategic work. That might be a matter of, whatever you find most fulfilling or fun within the business. It gives you the freedom to be selective about how you spend your time, who you spend it with, and
So,
what you're
you
doing right now.
mentioned actually quite a few times that if someone is stuck, you help them unstuck. So, can you just elaborate more on that?
Yeah. So, when we talk about getting stuck, this usually comes down to those plateaus, like we were touching on earlier, right? This is a matter of your business has grown to a certain point and you feel stuck, right? So getting that outside perspective, whether it's from, a mentor, a coach, a consultant, a mastermind group, whatever it is, right? Getting that perspective can really allow you to uncover those hidden opportunities in your business, right? I find, people typically, come to me with sort of two areas of knowledge at the forefront. One is the stuff they know, the superpower, the thing you're really good at, right? There's also the big question, right? When I have, new clients working with me, they've got a big question, right? Something keeping them up at night. Well, that big question is something that you don't know, right? That's why it's a question. But when you know you don't know something, you can look online for an answer. You can take a course, right? You can hire someone. You can read a book, right? You can do all these different things to find an answer to the thing you know that you don't know. But all the opportunities I find again and again that get folks unstuck are really from that third category of knowledge. And that's the things you didn't know you didn't know. You see, the things you don't know are where the opportunities for big pivots, growth, and everything else come from. And how else do you find out about those unless you get that outside perspective about what's going on in your business and see what others are really doing? That gives you that perspective and shows you what's working for others and lets you ask the questions to see how it can apply.
So those are the blind spots. So you need someone with the bigger vision and someone who can look from the top, who can see the blind spots, because you cannot see your own blind spots, right? And if you cannot identify, how are you going to, work on them, right? Yeah. So
Well, that's just it. It's funny. I was out for, I'm an avid cyclist and I also run a little bit too. And I was out for a run with a friend of mine. And as we're coming back from that run, he looks over at me and says, oh, Jeremy, you got to adjust your form. Your core is collapsing. And I said, my what now? And he's like, yeah, your core is collapsing. And I asked him, like, what does that even mean? Right. I'm looking down at myself. And I don't see what he was talking about. But my friend is running next to me, looking at me with a perspective I could never, ever have. Right. But he had that perspective and he had that guidance. And so he was able to provide the perspective and some corrective tips. He's like, drive with your glutes more. And so I tried doing what he's saying, and he's able to give me a few real quick corrections because I wasn't getting it because I don't have that perspective, but he did. And then when I dialed it in, he's like, there you go. That's how it should look. And it did feel better. And then I knew what he meant, but I would never have figured that out on my own. I wasn't even aware of it. And even if someone told me, I wouldn't have been able to fix it. But to have someone there looking at me, providing that rapid, quick course correction with that third-party perspective
really
was so invaluable.
And I was looking at your profile and I came across with a term, something called infamous FAQ. And I had never heard about that term. So can you elaborate? What is that? Because I knew FAQ, I knew what is infamous, but I never knew infamous FAQ.
Yeah, so this is actually what my upcoming book is entirely about. And this is all about sort of, the three big levers you have in your business, your F, your A, and your Q. And each one of these levers can be adjusted in your business to increase your profitability. And this is the culmination of, decades of my experience working one-on-one with hundreds of businesses, helping them to figure out how to increase not just the profitability, but gross sales as well in the business. So at a super high level, adjusting any one of these levers in your business will improve things. But what's interesting is it's not an additive result, right? It's actually, if we want to get back to math, which I love, right? It's actually multiplicative, right? What this means is if you increase your F, your A, and your Q each by 10%, right? That's not a 30% increase, right? You're actually multiplying by, 1.1 3 different times. So, if you adjust any one of these levers in your business, and there are dozens of ways of, adjusting each one, right? You see the growth that not only, are you looking for, but you deserve as a business owner. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a business owner that was a, traditional brick and mortar business, right? They had not been doing much on the email marketing side of things. Conversely, I had a online e-commerce company that was doing really well on the email marketing side of things, but had never done any direct mail, right? So these are two different businesses, each seeing success in their own way, that had not been using a key strategy the other business was using for growth, right? So simply by connecting up these business owners, facilitating the right conversation, sharing of resources, vendors, best practices, and so on, right? The e-commerce business owner was able to add direct mail into their business and start getting new customers who'd never even heard of their business, that they never would have found from AdWords or SEO or any of these things, simply by using the direct mail best practices from a brick and mortar store, right? The other business, the brick and mortar store, suddenly started using some of the email marketing best practices that the e-commerce business had been using, that they as a brick and mortar store had never known about or even how to use. And so in working with these businesses, we're able to implement new strategies to bring on entirely new sales channels, right? And what that allowed us to do was improve the Q for that business in the FAQ formula, right? And in some cases, we're even able to improve that F for many of those customers, which is so huge. And by improving both of those, we're able to grow the revenue for both businesses. And suddenly, this brick and mortar business owner was using terms she'd never used before. She was talking about her earnings per click, right? She was talking about all the revenue and, numbers and stats that, our online marketing, listeners know about to her brick and mortar business, where she'd never thought about or worried about those kinds of things before. And that kind of growth and pivot is
this is a
huge.
totally new concept, because we are just stuck. Okay, you just follow this path, and eventually the results will happen. No, you have to explore the new opportunities and new ways. No doubt about it. So, what do
Yep.
most business owners get wrong with their funnels, and how can they fix them? Because I love funnels, because funnels help me make money while I'm asleep. Funnels make me money when I'm on vacationing. But if you have a leaky funnel, people may not even realize it. So, how can you fix?
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned leaky funnels, because the reality is all of our funnels are leaky, and that's not always entirely a bad thing. In fact, conversely, if your funnel has 0 leaks, then that's actually a different problem in of itself. But let's talk about leaky funnels, because that's actually what most folks are dealing with, right? You want your funnel to be a little leaky, but you want to understand how effective your funnel is, right? And that comes down to starting with understanding what are the steps in your marketing funnel, or really any funnel in your business. Most folks, if you ask them what their funnel was, couldn't even comprehensively explain to you what the steps are in a funnel, right? If they can, the next question is, how is your conversion at each one of those steps, or what are your numbers? Most folks don't know the numbers in their funnel, let alone the conversion rate at each step of their funnel, let alone the dollar cost at each step in the funnel, right? So I have it's a really easy Google sheet any of our listeners are welcome to use, where that's a template for this. I walk you through how to use it, and you can actually fill this in. So you can start to look at what the funnels are in your business. So I'll give you a common example. You might have a website where you're running ads to get folks to see the ad, click on the ad to get to your website, opt in, schedule a call with you, show up to the call, and then buy on that call or not buy on that call, right? Those are some really simple steps you might have in your funnel, right? We could talk about dozens of other examples, but let's just stick with that one for now. So at each step of the way there, right, there are people falling out that aren't moving forward. And so our question is, what is like the worst performing part of your funnel, and what can we do to improve those numbers, right? So let's say for every 100 people that ends up on your website, only one of them is opting in. Well, then we have to ask, well, why is that, right? What can we do? And we have a bunch of hands-on strategies we can apply to improve that conversion. Because if we go from even 1 to 2 opt-ins out of those 100 views, we're effectively doubling all the rest of the numbers and the rest of your funnel, right? So let's say we get that 1 to a 5, and we get 5 opt-ins, you now have a 5% conversion rate there. Well, now we might find further down your funnel, the opt-in rate to actually scheduling a call is now the worst performing part of your funnel. So we can look at, what happened there and how do we improve that, and so on. So we apply an iterative process to the funnel. That's what allows us to determine what needs help in the funnel, apply the specific strategies we need to make that not the worst performing part of your funnel.
So,
And
we
then we
know
repeat.
what you came from and what you are doing right now. But I would like to know more. What's your next plan?
Yeah, so a fair amount of what we're talking about. The book I mentioned earlier is really what's next. That's in process right now, and that's taking decades of experience and working with hundreds of businesses, and putting down that framework that's really come from me connecting those dots between businesses, that can allow really any business owner that is already having an established business and selling product to look at what they can do to improve that, to improve the profitability in the business. And that's really what I have laid out in my upcoming book.
Okay, yeah, means that's really amazing. Looking forward to all your new advancements. I just wanted to know that now we know about your business, your services, your offers. But if someone wants to follow you or someone wants to contact you, what is the best way? How can they contact you?
Yeah, everything that we're talking about is all over at bayareamastermind.com, or bayareamastermind.com/book is where you'll find info on the book we're talking about. And there'll also be some links in the show notes as well for resources diving deeper into some of the topics we've touched on. And that's all over at bayareamastermind.com, BAYAREA.
So who can join your Bay
mastermind.com.
Area mastermind?
Yeah, we have a pretty strict application process. We really look for individuals that meet a number of important criteria. So we have an application process to then test drive our group, and that's all over on our website as well.
That's really good to know. And I think I covered most of the things what I wanted to ask. But if I missed out on any particular point or something, if you want to give us a parting message to our audience, I would like to get that message from you.
Yeah, so entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but for our listeners who are doing it and who see entrepreneurship as the path for them, that's fantastic. The good news is you don't have to go at it alone. It's lonely as an entrepreneur, but there are other folks also on that same journey that you're on, right? So whether it's parenting or growing a business or relationships or finance or whatever it is going on in your life, there are others who've been there before, who've done that, who face similar challenges. You don't have to go at things alone. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals who've been on that journey and are on that journey, and you'll find yourselves in the company of really great folks who can help you out.
Jeremy. Actually, after talking to you, I realized one thing. At every stage, entrepreneurs, they have some kind of dream. For example, if they're starting, then they want more revenue. And if they have more revenue, they want to free themselves out. And if they are at that particular stage that they want totally X themselves out of the business, you have solution at each and every step. And each and every step, whatever dream the entrepreneur has, they can satisfy and fulfill that dream with your mentorship. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for coming and blessing our audience.
Exactly.
And we look forward to working and collaborating with you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me on. This was a ton of fun.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We are blessed to have you as part of our community, and whatever way we can help you, serve you, let us know. Please subscribe and let us know how we can help you, what resources you want. We have lots of free resources and also free collaboration joint venture groups you can join and explode your business, because most solopreneurs quit their business before they launch their first products, and I don't want that to happen to you. And that's why we have special launch service where you can monetize your digitals and become profitable as fast as within 7 days. And if you want to scale your business, join our membership New Beginning Success Collaboration, where we'll provide you MRR and PLR products and collaborations so that you can scale your business with ease and effortlessly. And hey, if you want to sell your digitals all over the world, yes, we will provide you affiliates more than 200 countries. So everything is possible. Just live your dream, follow your dream, and whichever way we can help you, do let us know. Thank you and God bless you.